Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Can we have the folks next to the door either go out or sit in? Just make a decision. Any decision. Great. It's a great pleasure and honor to be here. I'd like to invite a man who has multiple claims for fame. He has over 30 years of experience in the venture capital industry, both on the investing side as well as on the entrepreneurial side. Among others, he founded GRP Records, a pioneer in music technology that more or less introduced CDs to the world and was sold to MCA in the 1990s. Recently founded Amiti Capital, a VC fund that invests primarily in Israel. In addition, he's the chairman and former president of AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, one of the most prominent organizations, public policy and advocacy organizations in the US, and is a very close and dear friend to Israel. So please join me in congratulating and welcoming Lee Rosenberg, known as Rosy.
Can you hear us? Hello. Hi, everybody.
Yeah. Great. So I thought I'd start with a quick disclosure. The disclosure is, I did what I do usually when I have discussions like this. I basically, looked at your background, and what I did is, we're good? And what I did is I searched your name in my favorite search engine, of course. And what I found is quite a few pictures of you with President Obama. So what's up with that? How do you know this guy? Are you buddies?
So I was the tall, handsome one, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That one. So first of all, just thanks for being here. Thanks to Yossi, who asked me to be a part of this, and obviously to Meir. I don't know if you know, Meir has a regular day job, but he is very active in caring about the work that we do in the U.S. to make sure that the United States and Israel stay friends. So thank you for that. The work of AIPAC is very much driven on the side of the volunteer. The volunteer is responsible for building relationships with the members of Congress. It's not necessarily the professional who does it. So the organization invests in us, and I have been doing that for a number of years. And then State Representative Barack Obama was running for Congress, actually, before he actually ran for Senate. And he reached out to me because, interestingly enough, in America, unlike any other country, it's important for members of Congress, and when they're running, to reach out to those in the community that care about Israel, because they need to understand about the issue. So he reached out. That started a long, ongoing relationship that started with him getting beat terribly in the House seat, and then he ran for Senate. And the relationship with him is very interesting in that we spend our time only focusing on one issue. Obviously, we're friends, but the dynamics are such as we don't go across the full range. It's a very direct relationship on this particular issue, and to that regard, took him to Israel on his first trip, which was in his first year as senator, and then the rest is history.
Wow. So you're still in relationship with this guy?
Yes.
Even,
I don't
even now when he's quite busier.
Yeah, I'm not so sure he wakes up every morning and wondering what I'm doing, but it's clear on when the issues around the Middle East and obviously around the U.S.-Israel relationship come up, sure, regular contact. And when you get to be president, you know, your day's full. So it's not necessarily the relationship and ongoing conversations you have with him, but it's obviously the conversations you have with his senior team.
Okay, I know you're not here like formally representing AIPAC here, so I'm not going to dwell too much on this, but I just want to see a quick show of hands. How many of you know AIPAC or heard of AIPAC? Okay, most of you. How many of you know what AIPAC do? Okay, the hands were cut to half. So can you say very shortly, what does AIPAC do? Why do we need AIPAC?
So first off, it's a U.S. organization. There are no Israelis who are members of AIPAC.
Okay, that's already a good start.
Right? So that's the first thing. And it has a very simple message and a very simple mission. And that is to make sure that the United States and Israel stay friends. Because it's important to America, not because it's important to Israel. We may have, people who are members of AIPAC may have other dynamics and thoughts to this, but it is an American organization focused on America's national security interest. And from that standpoint, the major issue affecting Israel is often the safety and its own security. So we spend all of our time making sure that the relationship stays tight, that there's no space between the two. Under the premise that, from the U.S. point of view, when Israel's lonely, things do not go as well as when Israel is not lonely. So from that dynamic, we make sure that that relationship is always tight. So how does it manifest itself in terms of policy? You know, when you have this relationship, it's a big brother, little brother kind of dynamic, right? It's not often the case that in that scenario that Israel is always heard, right? So it's AIPAC's responsibility to make sure that that message is heard. So we're quite vocal in that, to make sure so on the issues regarding Iran, the issues regarding the pursuit of peace, the issues regarding aid, the issues regarding Iron Dome, you can go down the list. Those are issues that we carry that message to make sure that America stands tall and stands with the government of Israel.
And you're doing it for the sake of America. I think it's important for us Israelis as well, I would say.
It is.
A little bit.
Right? Yeah, of course. But everyone here, you know, there's certainly a caring for the state of Israel for people who are involved. But we never try to waver past the dynamic of, you know, we're not doing it for Israel. We actually think that it's in our own best interest, actually, to make sure that Israel stays safe and secure. Because if you look around this neighborhood and we look for allies, I mean, who are we going to pick? And so,
they hope us.
Right. So in that arena, it's obviously in our interest to do so. You go then further down between shared values and democracies, and we can get into the dynamics regarding the economies and so forth. There's a lot of synergies between the two. But it gets down to the basic dynamic for AIPAC is the national security interest.
Okay. You mentioned synergies. This whole policy advocacy part of your life sounds to me very, very different from your other part of the life, which is venture capital, which we talked in the intro about.
Right.
Are there any synergies between these two? Are they totally separate? Is it like a Mr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde relationship?
Well, I'll give you the difference between the two. The first is in the business of venture capital, which is a fascinating business. As I always say that the more you learn, the better it gets. So you have a fantastic idea, you have a certain innovation, you just need to know more, you need to understand the market, you need to put together a plan, and so forth and so on. And so it's kind of a yes business, right? You just got to find the best out there, the smartest team, and you learn. And you just keep learning. So the more you learn, the better it gets. In the work around the issues regarding the safety and security of Israel, the AIPAC work, the more you learn, the worse it gets. It's the flip side of the argument. So as I started to do my work with AIPAC, obviously it was a frustration because you have this enormous desire to learn because it never stops. But unfortunately, the more worried you get. So that's a difference. Let me talk about what I think are the similarities. First of all, passion. The passion of the people who are involved in AIPAC is a very similar kind of personality to the people who are involved in the venture world, that kind of passion. primarily to make a difference. So in the world of AIPAC, the people who stay in this work, it's so obvious that the work that we do, you can actually tangibly feel it. So a relationship with Senator Obama, who becomes President of the United States, and you have that personal relationship on this particular issue, and you have access, you can actually feel the tangible nature of that. Same thing of the passion on the venture side. The desire to make a difference. It's not just we're going to go build that great idea, but it's also that you're going to be changing the way people do their work, or the way people socialize. And then the final piece is return on investment. That's very similar, because the dollars that's spent in the world of AIPAC are tiny compared to the return that you get. So the $3 billion in military aid, just as an example, right? You could never get that check written by yourselves. So the investment of people who get engaged in the work of AIPAC, who go then advocate and make sure that money continues to flow, obviously there's return. And obviously on the venture side, that's what we're in this business for, is to get a return.
What about optimism? I can imagine that on the venture side, you have to be an optimist, right? To put your money into any company, that the chances statistically for it to succeed is very low. How about on the policy side?
Well, it's a difference, because it's a worry business, right? And so the days are spent trying to calm yourself down to figure out what you can do to actively get it out of that. Because the more you worry, I mean, it's not a successful business model to continue to worry and not get anything done. So in the AIPAC side, you can actually effectuate a change and convert that worry into action. The venture business is all about action, but it starts not necessarily on the worry side, it starts very much on the optimist side.
Okay, let's talk about the venture business. Your experience, 30 years of experience in venture capital, was primarily focused on the US. Now you're setting a fund that will focus solely on Israel. Why Israel?
So it's interesting to me to see, the dynamics of the venture business in Israel. There are no shortage of ideas in America, just like there's no shortage of ideas in London or in Kenya or in Israel. Everybody's thinking of ideas. I don't think that's actually the unique piece of why invest in Israel. The venture business is, from an investor standpoint, is about timing. When you get in and when you get out, and to determine what are the other factors in an environment that can actually cause a financial success. So, to me, this opportunity in Israel has reached a different kind of maturity. It had its rise, obviously, in the 10 years ago. There was a huge boom in valuations, and then the nuclear winter hit, and it fell back down. I think this version of what is happening here has so much more maturity from an environmental standpoint. There are a lot more elements in place that when an investment occurs in the early stage, that you're reducing your risk on your exit. Most importantly is what you do. All right, the work of Google is not just to hire and from within and build great products and build great services, but you're also in the business of acquiring. Because you acquire a company and you decide to keep it here, very important. Very important from a venture standpoint, from an investor standpoint, that we know that we don't have to worry about as the company is being built, that it has to then move to America or move to somewhere else. Too much risk. This environment where you have major multinational companies actively looking to acquire companies, which I think is much more in play now than it has ever been, is a critical factor for why I chose to invest here rather than in America.
So this is not social activism. You're investing here to make profits, to bring ROI to the investors.
Yeah, not tzedakah. No, this part of my life is to go out and get rich. And I do think that the opportunity here has presented itself in a very solid way.
Okay.